Hey up, right, I'm constantly being asked what is my favourite riding gear, what do I ride in, what am I wearing day to day when I'm on the bikes, especially during the months of summer. So that's the video that I'm going to make today, really, just go starting at the top and working my way down what I generally ride when I'm out wearing. Now this is an answer to questions that I constantly get in comments. It's an ongoing thing that's been going on for years. It's not a decree to you that you must get these things. I'm simply showing them to you. You know, you do what you want with the information. As I say, I'm going to start at the top and work down. What I will say is stick around for these jeans. You know, if you're into your sort of 1960s cafe racer garb, these are iconic jeans that have been used by the motorcycling fraternity since the 1950s. So if you want to be sort of traditionally or historically correct, these are the jeans to go for. Stick around for that. Right, we'll start off with the helmet. As you know, a few months ago I bought a showy Glamster. I just thought I would try a full face helmet for a change, because I'd not worn one for years, and then I remembered why I'd gone to a half-faced helmet over a full-faced helmet. It's because full-faced helmets are just so noisy. I can see why people have to wear earplugs with them. They are just so damn noisy, it drives me nuts. Just put these to one side for the minute. My preferred helmet, I've been through a few open-face helmets. My preferred helmet is the Shoei JO half-face helmet. I've had this one for, been around for a couple of seasons, and it's covered in sticky flies at the moment. What I like about Shoei, you know, our heads are all different sizes. Shoei helmets, an intermediate oval, I think they call it, have always suited my, you know, my head shape. Shoei are just perfect. You know, the cushioning on the inside is really good. The JO is a small helmet sort of format. They have different shell shapes for different sizes. A lot of manufacturers, they have one shell size, and then they just increase the padding on the inside to go down in size. So you can literally end up looking a little bit like a bell end if you've got a smaller head. And you wear their helmets. I think Shoei altogether, generally they have 5 shell sizes for each helmet. I'm a large, so this will actually be one of the larger sizes. As I say, I find it a really comfortable helmet. It fits all the modern standards, and it has a flip down visor, which is useful. It means I don't have to bother too much with goggles anymore. So yeah, really good piece of kit. You know, the Glamster, I will use it, but I'm not enjoying it as much as I do with these. The peripheral vision's pretty good in the Shoei Glamster, but it's just the helmet noise. You know, open face helmets, I don't know whether, you know, I'm a bit contrary to what people normally sort of advise. Open face helmets tend to be quieter from wind noise than I've discovered with full face helmets over the years. So that's my helmet of choice, a Shoei JO. Next thing, because I'm wearing an open faced helmet, I tend to wear a neck tube or a snood or whatever you want to call it. I think some people call them comforters. For years now I've been using these Union Jack snoods, and I normally, I mean, there's loads of companies make these or similar ones, and they're available on places like Amazon and eBay. They generally cost about £8 to £10. It varies, as you know, pricing's always changing on Amazon. They're okay. You know, if I didn't know any better, I would still be using it, to be honest. They're okay. What I tend to find with these is, you know, to get a good fit, you need it to fit over your nose to either in winter keep the cold off your face, but it's mainly to keep insects from hitting your face. That's the main reason that I wear them. It is just to stop that sting from flying insects. What I tend to do is pull it over my head like this and have it just on the bridge of my nose, but then when you put your helmet on, it tends to pull it down, so you then have to sort of retuck it, and they're never very secure. And the other problem with them is, as they get older, they stretch out. They're not a particularly high quality fabric. It's quite a loose weave. I generally get a season out of one of these before I have to replace it. I found them all to be the same. You know, they're okay for what they are. I mean, the other thing is, when you go into a shop or like to pay at a petrol station or something like that, people don't like masked men wandering around the shop, so I always pull it down, even though I might leave my helmet on, and that's another another sort of reason for an open face helmet. You don't have to take it off and carry it necessarily. If you're just popping into a shop, you can keep it on as long as your face is exposed. The problem is when you pull it down, again, getting it to stay back up where it should be when you set off is problematic. I do have a lot of problem with these, especially once I've been using them for a few months, whereby they start to slip down on a long journey and they become a bit of a hassle. Now, Motor Customs a few months ago sent me some samples of their new snood, and these are quite different. Now, the price isn't too bad. They're about double what they cost, but I think you've got more than double the quality and usability. They've got loads of different colour variants. They just sent me a small selection of these. Paula absolutely loves these. These have been a bit of a game changer for her as well. They're a much tighter weave. It's a much higher quality fabric. They're also hemmed at the top and the bottom. It's a much higher quality fabric that doesn't lose its shape over time, and that's partly because of this hem design. But the really clever bit is, it's got, where the bridge of your nose is, it's got a silicone panel which actually grips your nose, and I found this to be a game changer, to be quite honest. The way to put these on, Sam was worrying whether he should have put some sort of indicator to show where that was to help people out, but there's a seam at the back. You know which way up is the right way up because it's got the Moton patch on it there, so that goes at the front. The seam at the back, simply align that so that it's at the back of your head. And that silicone piece comes straight down onto the bridge of your nose and grips your nose. And what I found with these, you can have it much lower down when the weather's a bit warmer and free your ears up, and that patch grips your nose really well. It doesn't move at all on your journeys. I mean, I've been using these for a couple of months so far. Ordinarily, I mean, they start to slip off right from day one. They just get progressively worse as time goes on. It doesn't move and it's comfortable, and you can adjust it to what part of your nose you want it on. So if you want it lower down your nose, put it there and it'll stay there. That silicone patch grips your nose perfectly and it doesn't budge. It's a set it and forget it piece of kit. The other thing is, if you go into a shop and you've got your helmet on, you can pull it down and it doesn't matter how far down your neck it goes. When you come back out, it's really easy just to reposition it on your nose and it stays there. And that's the big problem with these. Once you've disturbed them, that's it, they're forever coming off your nose. Great piece of kit. I don't always wear sunglasses on a bike, but when the mood takes me, I use my old Tom Ford Snowdens. I must have had these about 10 years. I don't particularly like them, if I'm honest. I don't think they suit my face, but You know, I've got other sunglasses, and because they were the oldest ones, these are the ones that I pulled into service, so these are the ones that I generally use. Really high quality sunglasses. Because of the small form factor, they fit in easily inside my helmet. I mean, shows all have a channel there, so you can put sunglasses or spectacles on if you need them. So they fit really easy, they stay put, they work just fine with these snoods, or neck tubes, whatever you want to call them. It's a really high quality pair of sunglasses. I can't remember what I paid for them, I've had them so long, but they are literally as good as new. I think they use a cotton acetate, a cotton based acetate for the actual frames, all high quality metal inserts. This has the gradiated lens, so it's more or less clear at the bottom and it gets darker as it goes up. I think these are also polarized, I'm not sure. Looking through them, yeah, I would say that they are polarized, so in particularly bright light they do improve vision, especially at long distances slightly. They cut out some of the haze. Right, before we get onto the jacket, the t-shirt, this is a Carhartt K87 t-shirt. I've got a few of these. Actually, I've just downsized. These are a workwear t-shirt. They're not a designer t-shirt or a fashion t-shirt. They're designed by Carhartt, which is an old American company, to use as workwear for builders, welders, construction workers, anybody that works outdoors. It's quite a thick, almost slubby cotton. I think it's something between 6 and 7 ounces per square yard, so it's quite a heavy duty cotton compared to most t-shirts. They're naturally oversized. Carhartt makes them oversized to make them easy to work in, because you know you need freedom of movement. But if you want a reasonable fit, size down by 1 at least, or 2 sizes. It all depends on how you like your t-shirts to fit. If you buy your normal size, it will be massive. Just be aware of that. So I would advise sizing down at least 1. I'm normally a large. This is a medium. If I'm honest, you know, looking at the excess fabric on it, I could probably have got away with a small, which would be very unusual for me. But the reason that I choose these is because it's an outdoor grade t-shirt. It's designed to keep the wind off. They're ideal for riding in the cooler months because, you know, that dense 6 to 7 ounce material helps to keep wind blast out, and it helps to keep body heat in. The other thing about these is they are very long, so you know you can tuck them into your trousers, sort of come down to about here, even on this size, which is a lot smaller than I would normally go for. They come down here, so when you're leant over on most motorbikes or you're doing any kind of work, it's almost impossible for it to come untucked at the back and expose your back to the cold, or expose other people to your back, depending on what you're wearing. They're not expensive. It is a workwear brand. Generally you can find them on the internet for between sort of 18 and 22 pounds. I get mine from Amazon. If you live in the UK, there might be 1 or 2 workwear companies that stock them. They're not an expensive t-shirt. But what I generally found, once they've put the package and postage on, they tend to be a little bit more expensive than Amazon is, because I'm a Prime member, so I get the delivery, etc. free. There is generally a wait though, because most of these come from the EU. I can't remember where exactly. I don't know whether it's Germany. So it can take up to a week to get to you, but you know, they're well worth it. I mean, the other concern with these is Carhartt is suddenly, over the last year or so, becoming quite fashionable by the fashion aficionados. So although they're still very reasonably priced now, I can see in the future they might start upping the prices, reflecting in that sort of fashion interest. Carhartt is the main company. There's also a Carhartt WIP, or work in progress, which is a separate entity that works in license from Carhartt. I think they do something similar to the K87, but that is more of a fashion brand and they are more expensive. Get the original Carhartt Workwear K87. You know, they are reasonably easy to get hold of, even here in the UK. If you live in America, you know, your local workwear store will have them on the shelves for next to nothing. This particular model, I think, has been around since '92. I've been wearing them on and off, certainly for the last 10 years. They're the perfect motorcycling t-shirt. You know, it's got the right thickness, the right dimensions. Some t-shirts tend to be a bit short, so you know, you tuck them in your trousers, you lean over and they come untucked, and you've got that sort of flesh exposed at the back to the cold. They're just a perfect all-round t-shirt. The plain, apart from you know, the patch on the pocket, it is a pocket t-shirt. I sometimes stick my wallet in there on a hot day if I take my jacket off. Yeah, I mean, there's not more I can say about it. They're just a really good basic t-shirt that is perfect for motorcycling. Perfect for anything really, but you know, it especially lends themselves well to motorcycling. Right, let's get on to the jacket. This shouldn't be any surprise really. I helped develop this jacket and I got, you know, I had the influence to put in a lot of the features that I like to see in a motorcycle jacket. So it stands to reason that my favourite motorcycle jacket, especially this year, has been the Motone Shogun. I know some people flip the lid over the price. As motorcycle jackets go, I don't think that's bad. It's sort of middle of the road really. I think they're about £580 and maybe higher end of middle of the road, but it is an outstanding piece of kit. As I say, it's got the card pocket in the sleeve, huge cargo pockets on the inside. It's made from Australian sourced bovine hide. Yeah, just to a few people are asking me if it's made out of kangaroo hide. Just because it comes from Australia doesn't mean that it's made out of kangaroo. No, it's bovine hide. It's a nubuck leather. You know, that wasn't my first choice. I was a little bit concerned about its durability, but I'm actually finding it works really well as a motorcycle jacket. There's no staining on it. It is starting to patternize a little bit now, which is exactly what it's meant to do. It's got Motone's minimal branding on it. I mean, I've done the full review on this jacket, so I'm not going to harp on about it, but this is my jacket of choice, certainly for 2026. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but this is a brilliant piece of kit. Really pleased with the way it's turned out. Sales have been good on it as well, from what I've heard. So yeah, all good on that. It's a nice piece of kit. Right, gloves. Again, Motone. This is the last of the Motone bits, I promise you. The Motone Spirit, I can't remember exactly when I reviewed these. They're a minimalist sort of, you know, bare essence motorcycle glove. The CE approved, the Kevlar lined, which is why it's called the Spirit, because, you know, they encompass the spirit of motorcycling without going overboard with lots of sort of frippery and detail. They're just such a convenient glove. You know, again, I had a little bit of input on these, and wrist sizing and fastening is a big issue for me, and I know it's a big issue for a lot of people, especially when you're wearing wrist watches or maybe a bit of jewellery on your wrist. It needs to be small enough to slip inside the cuff of a jacket, but wide enough not to snag on the stuff that, you know, you'll generally be wearing on your wrist, because I've got quite thick wrists, so it can be an issue for me. Really nice glove, really convenient. The great thing is as well, because they're a minimalist glove, you don't have to just reserve these for use during motorcycling. You know, in the winter they come in quite handy just as an everyday glove. They've actually got a design that is very similar to some traditional English glove manufacturers' models. So you sort of get double your money out of it, because you can use it during the winter for non-riding. It's also got screen sensitive operating patches on the thumbs and the forefinger, so you don't have to take it off to look at something on your phone if you don't want to. I mean, I tend to anyway. The wearing in really well, really comfortable glove, everything that, I don't like fussy motorcycle gloves, and these are right up my street. Now, they did send me a brown pair, which I actually thought I would be using more often. They've still got the tags on, because I think the minimalist design of these just seems to go so well with everything. So I've sort of ended up using the black ones all the time. I'm sure I will use the brown ones at some stage, which are really nice. I just tend to gravitate towards brown more, but I haven't with this glove. I've been using the black all the time. I can't remember when I actually reviewed these. It must be, I might even have been last year. So I've had a lot of use out of these. They're holding up really well. Absolutely nothing to report about quality and the way they're generally holding up. Apart from patternizing a little bit, they're just as good as the day I first put them on. Right, jeans. You'll probably, I know a lot of guys like to sort of dress era appropriately for riding the modern classics, and they all take their inspiration from the sort of cafe racer style of the 1960s. Now, the mistake I always see is they go straight out and they get a pair of Levi's. For a start, Levi's were virtually unobtainable in the UK in the 1960s, because Levi didn't get its export network sorted out. I mean, my recollections of Levi's, the first time I found a pair of Levi's available for sale in the UK was in the late 1970s, and that was in my mum's catalogue. And because of the manufacturing and distribution process that Levi's had in place, because they were ignoring the export market, they were twice the price of anybody else's jeans, or more than twice the price. If I remember back then, a pair of Wrangler cowboy cut jeans was something like £7.50 or £8, but a pair of Levi 501s then was £18. So nobody wore them, they were too expensive. And in the 60s they were almost unobtainable. There might have been a few select boutiques in London or similar cities that would have them for sale at a premium, but the likes of the Turret Boys and the Cafe Racers, they didn't have that sort of money, so they went for the Wrangler cowboy cut jeans. And you can tell that because when you look at the pictures, they're all a little bit baggy and they're all a little bit long. Your drain pipe trousers and that didn't come along until much later, where they started to experiment with different colours and fades, I think your flares came along in the 1970s, didn't they? And then they started going for the baggy look and then the tight look, and everything started to change from there. But for years, Wrangler was the Wrangler cowboy cut jean was the choice of motorcyclists, not just in the UK but on the continent and in the States as well, for a very good reason. These were brought out in 1947. Back then, Wrangler was the Bluebell company. They were a workwear company. They bought out a company called Casey Jones, which was another workwear company. But Casey Jones had ownership of the Wrangler trademark. Now, Bluebell seized this particular trademark because Wrangler, obviously, it's a name associated with wrangling cattle, cowboys, and they created the first set of jeans. Now, these were aimed at the horse rider in the States, the farmers, the ranchers, and particularly the rodeo circuit. Now, the rodeo circuit puts particular demands on a pair of jeans, so they designed these jeans specifically to be the official jeans of the rodeo circuit in the States, which they still are. And how they did that is, for a start, they went for a much higher grade denim. You know, something like your Levi 501s, they're about an 11 ounce denim, that's at 11 ounces per square yard. These range from 14.5 to 15.5 ounces per square yard. It depends on you know, which colour variants you go for and whether you go for the rigid denim or the sans-serif denim. So the weights do vary, but they're a much heavier weight than you know, stuff like your Levi's, which really, you know, the Levi have always been a fashion jeans company, sort of certainly since the 1960s. The other thing they did, they made them a much higher rise for somebody who's sitting in the saddle all day. And as you probably start to realise, this is the same for motorcyclists, because riding a horse and riding a motorcycle is a very similar environment. They made them a much higher rise, so they come right up to your waist. This again means that the small of your back isn't exposed when you're riding in the saddle all day. It makes them much more comfortable. I think they're also a slightly more flattering look than the you know, the low-rise and mid-rise jeans that we tend to see today. I mean, one thing to remember, the modern denim that we have now, especially this stretch denim, I know they call it denim, I know some people would like to argue the point of this, it's fashion denim, it's not real denim. It doesn't provide the same protection that workwear denim did back in the 1940s and beyond. These sort of jeans, you know, if you're going for your driving test in the UK on a bike, they do specify that you must at least be wearing a heavyweight denim jean to be able to take your test. And I think it's the same with denim jackets. They stipulate you can wear a denim jacket, providing it's a heavyweight workwear jacket and you have some other layers underneath it. But these are particularly suited for motorcycling for a number of reasons. Now, Wrangler set up the first company to actually manufacture their cowboy cut jeans in the UK in 1962. I think it was in Scotland. I can't remember the name of the town where they were made. But they actually started manufacturing these in the UK in 1962, which meant they were available to everybody and they were as cheap as chips. As I say, I mean, even in the 1970s, you're only looking at about £8 for a pair of Wranglers, probably less. In fact, I seem to remember getting a pair for £5 once. You know, so you've got the high rise. They also have a total of 7 belt loops. Most modern jeans only have 5. These have got an additional 2 at the back. That again, it ensures that your jeans stay up at the back. It's a much stronger fastening for your belt, but it also doesn't put too much pressure on your belt. I mean, we've all had belts that sort of deform in the middle at the back after a period of time, because you've only got, you know, 2 loops at the side and 1 in the middle, and what that does is it stretches the belt out of shape. These help your belt keep its shape with a more secure fastening around, you know, around your body. The other thing is they move the pockets out and up. Most modern jeans, your pockets are in the middle and they're down here somewhere. They're bloody awful, which makes the pockets unusable, because when you sit down, you're sitting on your pocket. So if you've got your wallet or anything else in there, you're sitting on your wallet and it can get quite uncomfortable. These were moved up and out of the way, so when you're sitting down, you know, you're sitting on this part of your backside and your pockets are actually clear of your seated area. So, you know, these were adopted by motorcyclists all over the world, including the UK, because they are just perfect for motorcycling. Now, they are a straight leg. They're not flared, but they're a generous cut. That's mainly to allow your jeans to ride up. It gives you plenty of room in the leg so your jeans can move up when you're in a riding position, and that they fall neatly back over your boot rather than snagging on your boot when you put your foot down. You know, that's something that you get with these slim cut jeans nowadays. The first thing I'm doing when I get off the bike is I'm having to pull the bottom of the jeans down back over my boot because they end up stuck up here somewhere. You know, these were designed specifically for a day in the saddle, so they were perfect for motorcycling. You've also got to remember, you know, back in the 1960s, there was no safety standards for rider protection. Denim really was about the best option. These were designed for rodeo riders that, you know, frequently been thrown off horses travelling at like 20 miles an hour. They had to be able to withstand that. Now, they later went on to a broken twill weave with these, which is even more abrasion resistance than your current Levi 501s. It's the way it works. It spreads the friction out over a wider area rather than it being concentrated on the peaks of the actual twill. So they're more abrasion resistant. And you know, in the 50s and the 60s, if you could afford a pair of leather pants, you know, there are all sorts of problems that go with them, like hygiene, cost, and how to get them cleaned when hygiene does become a problem with them. Jeans were the perfect substitute, and the Wrangler cowboy cut was the perfect choice. You know, it was a good balance of performance over cost, shall we say. I know in my youth everybody wore cowboy cut jeans. I certainly wore them until the late 1980s. Of course, we started getting all these weird stone washers and that in, and different jean companies started to mess around with different cuts. I think I bought my first pair of Levi's in either 90 or 91 because that was the first time they were available in the shops here in Hull. So, you know, things have moved on, and they're a model of jean that's been forgotten. But you know, if you want to be historically correct about what jeans to wear when you're doing your you know, your sort of ton-up boy outfit for riding your modern classic, these are the jeans to go for. The other features of these is the rivets on the pockets, obviously, so that it didn't damage the leather on the saddle or on the saddle on your motorcycle. The smooth copper rivets everywhere so they don't catch on anything. You've got your non-contrast stitching on the fly, which is you know, a perfect indicator of a cowboy cut jean. Now, if you're of a smaller proportions, I think in the late 60s they brought the slim cut cowboy jeans in. Now, they're not a slim cut by today's modern standards. They're still quite generous. They're not much different from these, but this was for guys that were of a particularly wiry build where, you know, the standard cowboy jeans, there was perhaps a bit of loose fabric which caused discomfort when they were riding. So these were designed just to tighten that up a little bit for people with smaller builds. I mean, I've got a couple of pairs of those. They're great. They're you know, they are a little bit tighter than the regular cowboy cut jeans, but you know, very similar in fit. Just remember, they are a high rise. They do come up. They make you look like your legs are much longer than they are, which is a bit of a problem with your low cut jeans. They tend to make you look a bit top heavy, but they are proper 14.5 to 15.5 ounce denim, proper rugged, strong denim. They were made that way because they have to withstand life on a farm or a ranch or in rodeo. In fact, they are still classed as pro rodeo jeans in the States. Now, the other thing, the final thing about them is the felled seam. That's that thick double fabric seam that on most jeans are on the inside. In order to provide comfort when you were in the saddle. They moved the felt seam to the outside. The felt seam is actually the strongest seam on a pair of jeans, and they put it there to stop people from splitting the trousers when they were working. Now, this smoother seam on the inside stops chafing when you're in the saddle for a long time. Probably more applicable to horse riding than riding a bike, but you know, that's the reason for it. They are different from any other make or model of jean on the market in that the felt seam is on the outside, but that also puts the strongest seam on your outside of your jeans, so in the event of a spill, you know, you've got your strongest seam there to hold your pants together while you're sliding. Now, I've had a couple of accidents in cowboy cut jeans back in the day. I was really pleased. I mean, I just assumed these had disappeared from the market. I didn't know they still existed until I came across a video about them on YouTube a couple of years ago. You know, they've got that iconic picture of the cowboy roping a steer. That was my memory of jeans for from the age of about 4 until I was probably approaching my 30s. You know, that was the jeans that I always bought until you know, other models and sort of fashion jeans came in, and they seem to have got pushed off the shop shelves. So that they are a little bit hard to find in the shops. In fact, I've had a look and I couldn't find any in the shops. I got these from Amazon. The beauty of them is they're still about half the price of a pair of Levi 501s, or even some of their you know, what I call fashion jeans, the stretch jeans. What you've got to remember with the stretch jeans is because they've got that lycra content, they are nowhere near as abrasion resistant as proper denim, because that lycra melts, and it's actually an integral part of the weave on the jeans. So as soon as that melts, the whole abrasive you know, resistant construction of the jeans just falls apart. So you shouldn't confuse these with the stretchy fashion jeans that, I mean, I've been wearing them for years. You know, they're comfortable, they don't take any breaking in. You can get a pleasing fit with them. You know, I know why people wear them, but they're not proper jeans to my mind. These are proper jeans, invented in 1947. As I say, I think it was 1969 they brought the slim version out. They're still built to the same specification because it's still the same specification that's required for rodeo riding. Tough as nails jeans. They'll last you a decade or more daily wear and use. And you know, like I say, that historically correct if you want that ton-up boys look, because if they weren't wearing these, what they will have been wearing was an English-made copy of these, which may or may not have been as good, I don't know, but they would all have been this cut. They didn't wear skinny jeans, they didn't wear tight jeans, because those sort of designs simply weren't available then. And they didn't wear Levi's because you couldn't get hold of them in the UK unless you were wealthy and you know, very lucky. Wrangler was the jeans of choice because it's Falkirk, that's where it was. Falkirk in Scotland, that's where the factory was for these. So they were available to everybody and they were cheap. Right, finally, my boots. At the moment, I'm wearing a pair of local Loxleys. These are actually a discontinued boot. The reason I've started wearing these is because normally I wear my Joseph Cheney Hurricanes and people are always asking about these. But I snapped my laces, but I didn't have the right length lace handy, and these are a bit short. And I mean, I can fasten them up, but they kept coming undone, so I've just temporarily retired them until I can get out and get the right size laces. These are made by Joseph Cheney and Sons. People are always asking me if the Red Wings. No, these are a far better boot than Red Wings. They're made by Joseph Cheney. They've been going since the 1880s, I think, of Joseph Cheney. These are a bench grade handmade boot with a full Goodyear welt. That is, you know, motorcycle boots these days are are cheap and nasty pieces of kit. You know, they might charge you 200 quid for them, but if you look at them, the leather might be of a reasonable quality. It's usually plastic coated to give it some sort of waterproofing, but that plastic coating doesn't last forever. But generally what you have is a construction where the sole is glued onto the upper, which is a very poor and cheap way of making shoes. The end result that, you know, your fastening of your sole onto your boot isn't very strong. Now they still do it the same way with these, but they only use that glue to hold it in place while they actually stitch the sole onto the welt. So it's a belt and braces method of construction. Red Wing only use a 3/4 Goodyear welt, which means that the back half of the boot, the heel part, that is just relying on glue to hold it on. So again, you know, they're not as strong, and I mean, I think these are a little bit pricier than something like the Red Wing Heritage boats, maybe an extra £100 on top of that. But what you've got is a handmade bench grade boat. The other thing about the Red Wings is, unless I'm mistaken, looking at some of the cutaway pictures on their website, they use hollow heels. I don't know whether it's to save money or to save weight, which means that they must use something to block that hollow. They must stretch leather or something around it to block that hollowing off. So they're not a solid heel. These are fully leather laminated heels. So you've got a Goodyear welt all the way around holding the sole onto the upper, and then you've got glued and nailed solid laminated heel holding the heel onto the actual sole itself. So a remarkably strong construction that can easily be resold and repaired if necessarily. Now the other thing about these is these are made from kudu leather. It's a really tough leather. It's an African antelope. They're actually a protected species, but to protect the environment and herd health, they have licensed culls once a year, and those skins are sold for well, shoe bag production, you know, whoever's willing to pay for it. So it is a slightly more expensive leather than cowhide, but it's very soft right from day one. It doesn't require a lot of care, and right out of the box it's got this amazing pattern. Apparently these antelope that the skin comes from, they live in a very thorny sort of gorse area, so they're constantly getting scratched by huge gorse thorns or thorn bushes, and that actually shows in the leather. It is evident in the leather because it's such a precious leather. They don't take anything of that out of it because they have to make the most of every single hide that they've got because of the cost and its availability. So a lot of those scratches are sort of visible on these when you get them new, but I mean, I've been wearing these for the past 3 years. They do need a bit of a clean, admittedly. They're wearing in really well. I mean, I've had motorcycle boots that have cost me £150–200 that have only lasted one season. I've been using these for 3 seasons. They need a little bit of a clean, but they're pretty much perfect. They've got a few scuffs and knocks, but they're pretty much perfect. They're not going to need I mean, the heels are a bit worn at the back. They're not going to need re-soling for a few years yet. Then I can have them redone and they'll be good to go probably for another 5 or 10 years. Yeah, Joseph Cheney Hurricanes. I actually managed to get these in a New Year sale a few years ago. They've just had a summer sale and I had a look to see if they were still available. They are still available, but they weren't in the sale. I think they're one of their best-selling boots. They're based on a military style boot, toe cap boot. I can't recommend them highly enough. I mean, I've used these in all weathers. They've got a bellows tongue, so they do keep water out pretty well. Just a good, tough boot. And you know, when you get to wherever you're going and you get off your bike, They're really easy to walk in. They're built for walking in. They work fine on a motorcycle, and you know, you don't look out of place. It's like I've said in the past. I love motorcycling. Motorcycling is a passion for me, but I don't love dressing like a motorcyclist. I've got no interest in displaying to everybody that I arrived on a bike. So you know, the normal clothing, if I can, I'll wear normal everyday clothing that looks acceptable and good wherever I am, as long as it's suitable for riding a bike. I'm not pretending that these jeans are CE certified motorcycle wear. They're not. But you know, I look around, most people just wear normal jeans these days. That's what I've done since the early 1980s, and that's what a lot of people still do, mainly for comfort. It's a balance between comfort and safety. You know, these jeans are cheap as chips. You can get them for as low as £35. I mean, I will leave links to everything that I've talked about today, if I can find the links for them. These jeans, again, I tend to get them off Amazon because they're not available in most of the local shops. £35 to £40 a pair. You can pay more for them. I think on Wrangler's own website you can pay as much as £75 from about the same pair as a Levi 501, but they're a far superior jean. They're far better made. But yeah, as for the Hurricanes, they're about £450 off the top of my head, but money well spent. I've been using them 3 years. They've probably got another 5 to 10 years in them. I just need to give them a bit of a clean. But yeah, I've got no interest in looking like a motorcyclist. My passion is motorcycles, not motorcyclist identity. I've got, you know, no interest in looking like a biker to other people. Right, so once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you'd leave a like, become a subscriber, and hit that hype button. That helps me out. I'll be back on Friday, so until then, ride safely, and I'll see you soon. Oh, that was a fucking mess, wasn't it?